Hey guys, exciting times, the first ever edition of the Guaranteed Fitness podcast. Okay, before we get started, I just want to give you a general overview of what the idea with this podcast is. Really, it's to give some great, useful, free content to anyone that's listening to it. So whether you're a member with us, you're someone who's thinking about joining us, or if you live somewhere completely different and we're never going to meet you, we hope that whatever happens in this podcast, you get some useful ideas and direction and things you can use going forward. First thing we're going to do though, I've been busy while Matt's been away travelling, and I've had prepared some special little jingles. So Matt's not heard these before. I played the first 10 seconds of it, but I'm going to play now the Guaranteed Fitness podcast intro, and Matt's going to hear it for the first time.
Welcome to the Guaranteed Fitness podcast of Awesomeness, where you'll discover hints, tips, and ideas on how to transform your lives and bodies, and how to become what you always wanted to be, with your hosts, Chief Ninjas, John the Guru Hall, and Matthew Can't Spell Nicholson.
Do you like that, Matt? Do you like it?
Love it.
Matt and I both listened to a podcast where the guy that hosts it introduces it with his name and then like a comedy middle name, and it's where we got the idea on the blog post that we do to put it in there. So while Matt was away, I had these created, and I was very tempted to say something really harsh, but I thought if I put in the middle of his name something that was a bit too much, he'd probably start crying. We'd have to retake this and all that. So
you took the piss out of my dyslexia. Well, that's fine.
Well, you were never officially diagnosed, though, were you?
Well, kind of officially.
Well,
didn't want a label.
Anyone that doesn't know Matt will know he's a terrible speller. I have to proofread everything that we ever send out there. And
if anyone knows me, I'm a genius as well. So
he's not.
You can't
he's
spell.
not. He's a bit like Rain Man in that respect.
In that way.
Okay, guys. So the format of the podcast is going to be a couple of things we're going to do every week, and a few extra things we'll add in here and there. We're going to start everyone with Ask John and Matt, our creatively titled section where you guys can email or Facebook us with questions you'd like us to answer. We've then got this week's thing, something useful, a video, an article, just something we're going to give to you guys that we think might benefit you. Then we've got the main interview. So this week's interview was with a lady called Ceri Kirkman. She joined our Macclesfield ARC, Arena of Real Change, back in February, and has seen some huge transformations over the last 9 months. We've already done the interview with her earlier today, and she's going to share with you some of the things that she changed, some useful ideas that all you guys can take home and start to implement to change your lives. Okay, guys, the first section of the podcast is Ask John and Matt. And again, while Matt's been away, I have had a jingle created for this. So check this out, guys.
The Guaranteed Fitness podcast of Awesomeness question corner.
That's amazing.
Do you like that?
That's unbelievable.
It took me hours to get that done. You would not believe it. So anyway, each week you guys can message in with a question. So we've got the first question this week on podcast number 1.
There's a question off Amanda Cunliffe, one of our members in Macclesfield. She said, how do we get more hours in the day and make time and have enough energy to do all the training that I want to do each week?
This is one we get asked quite a lot, because when people come and deal with us, they've generally got busy lives. They've tried other options in the past and they've struggled to fit them in. A couple of things Amanda said there. First thing I really like, she said, make time. That's a massive thing that people often have to change their thought process about when they first start with us, because they're looking initially to find time. And when you try and find time, it's never going to happen. Time is not going to present itself to you. If you come in with the attitude of making time, then there is the time to be made. First thing to think about as well is that everyone has the same amount of time. There's 168 hours in the week, and some people run big international companies, some people run countries in that time. So the time is there. It's just about identifying where you've got that you can make up time and free it up to do other things. So what I've actually done, I've put together a little small email course that you guys can follow if you want. I did it a few months ago, but I've actually tweaked it now, ready for this podcast. It's called How to Make Time for Weight Loss. I'm going to put it in the show notes link on the website. So if you just go to guaranteedfitness.co.uk and enter your email address, you'll get full access to the email series about it. I'm just going to quickly run you through a couple of concepts on it. First thing, a really useful way to get started is to find out what you're currently spending your time on at the moment. And for that, on the series that we'll send out is what we call a 15-minute log. Now, Matt and I first did this probably about 15 months ago, basically recording every 15 minutes throughout the day what we're doing. And Matt, how did you find that?
Really interesting, because you don't realise kind of what you're doing all day. You think, oh, I've done a bit of this, I've done a bit of that. And when you really realise what you're doing every 15 minutes, you waste a lot of time. You know, you might be checking Facebook or checking your email or making a drink or something like that, when you can get a lot done in a short amount of time if you sit down and do it.
It is eye-opening when you actually write these things down. And sometimes we'd sit there after like an hour of work and go, right, what did I actually do in that hour? I've done X, Y, Z job, but that's really only about 20 or 30 minutes. And it really makes you think what you're spending your time on. So when you fill that log in, well, there's a few things you can do. Firstly, some of those things on there you can just stop or cut down doing. So most people spend a number of hours per week on Facebook, TV, just browsing the internet, things that you might enjoy them, but they don't need to be done. And ultimately, if you're doing them instead of doing something else like healthy eating and exercise, then you are choosing to do them over living a healthy life. So some things you can just stop. Batching, though, is a huge thing as well. Putting together all similar tasks in a way that you can get them done a lot quicker is a huge win to free up lots of time. So, for example, coming into this week, I've actually got 147 things on my task list that I want to get done. Not necessarily all this week, but at some point soon. Now, some of them are only actually 2-minute jobs. It's just changing a little bit of something on an email or tweaking something or sending someone their program. But all I do is I categorize all those tasks and do them in batches. So everything that's got anything to do with sending an email, I'll blast out together in an hour or two rather than spending 20 lots of 10 minutes throughout the week. Everything that's ordering something I'll do together. Everything that involves cooking or food prep, I'll try and batch them and do together. So it's putting all similar tasks together to minimize the amount of time that you've got on it. So first thing, we definitely recommend do a 15-minute log, look at the things you can either stop doing or the things that you can batch and do together. And as I said, if you visit guaranteedfitness.co.uk, you can download a full email mini-series on how best to make more time. Okay, guys, it's time for the Thing of the Week section. This is where we give you something that you can either watch or download or read or listen to, what have you, will find useful. Now, I haven't actually had a jingle made for this one. So, Matt, you claim to be really good at doing jingles, so can you do the honours?
The Thing of the Week.
Mate, I've seen your career for you. That was awesome.
I used to do it full-time job.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was a
When was
jingle.
that? Yeah?
The past life.
Past life, nice one. Right, this week's Thing of the Week, I actually mentioned a minute ago, I got a little bit carried away. It's the Making Time for Weight Loss course. So, as I said, pop over to guaranteedfitness.co.uk. You can see all the information from all the podcasts, the show notes on there. And you can click on the little box there and it'll send you all the information you need out for that. Okay, guys, on today's podcast, we've got Ceri. Ceri is a member at our Macclesfield branch of Guaranteed Fitness. She joined us back in February of this year and has made some fantastic transformations. Those of you that look on the Facebook page might have seen her before and after pictures and seen how she's transformed in appearance since we first met her at the start of this year. But over the course of this podcast, we want to get a bit more information about not just those changes, but how her life has changed. So, Ceri, tell us a little bit about you and your life before we met you in February.
Okay, I'm a mum of 2 kids, live at home with my husband as well. Life was probably a bit the same, get home from work, get the kids sorted, ready for bed, and then on the sofa for the rest of the evening. Pretty sedentary, really.
That's cool, Ceri. So how are you feeling in general about sort of yourself before you start with us? You like sleep, energy levels, etc.?
I slept all right, but I think that was pretty much because I was just tired all the time. I felt really uncomfortable in myself, in my clothes. Didn't feel particularly good about myself when I went out with my friends. Just really lethargic, I'd say.
The cool thing with you, Ceri, you were one of a number of friends that have joined here. One of your friends, I think, was it Sally who started first? Yeah. And then the next month, Alex came along. And over the course of a few months, basically you and about 10 people that you know came down and tried us out. Before you started, what did you normally eat, Ceri? What was your normal sort of breakfast, dinner and tea on an average day?
Skip breakfast pretty much every day. Lunch, sandwich, crisps, something sweet after. Probably grazing quite a lot throughout the day. And then tea would be a lot of, because I'm vegetarian, I'd eat a lot of pasta as the bulk of the meal. Potatoes, rice, that kind of thing. Still vegetables as well, but I'd say the pasta was probably the biggest part of the meal. And then rubbish in the evenings, chocolate, crisps, snacking a lot.
The first thing you said there, Ceri, was particularly interesting because, Matt, you actually made quite an interesting observation at the Buxton Club last month when we did the assessments there about what people were having for breakfast. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so we did the assessments over at Buxton, and The 4 largest people we assessed over the month, they all said exactly the same thing, that they skip breakfast, they don't have it. And it was a bit like deja vu every time somebody came in and we measured them, we said, I don't have breakfast, and we looked at the results, and the 4 people said that were the 4 largest. So it was very interesting to see the correlation between people who say that and the people who are the heaviest. And the opposite end of the scale is the 4 leanest people that we measured all said the same thing. They have the breakfast that we recommend, which we're going to talk about later.
Missing breakfast is definitely one of those things that it sort of makes sense to do it from a weight loss perspective. You think, well, I'm getting less calories into me as part of the day where I'm not consuming food. We'll mention this a little bit more in the show notes on the website. So if you go to guaranteedfitness.co.uk, pop your email address and you'll see a bit more about this. But basically, missing breakfast can have an effect on your hormonal balance. And as we've said many times in the emails and things we send out, your balance of your hormones and where it sends the calories you consume is what has a bigger impact on where those calories go, whether they're sent to use as energy in the muscles and the organs, or whether they're diverted off to fat stores. So first take home there, guys, any of you that listen to this that skip breakfast, getting yourself a nice healthy breakfast is a big win for you. So Ceri, what other things have you tried in the past, like gym, slimming clubs, etc.?
Quite a lot, really. I've done a lot of slimming clubs, and I've lost weight on all of them, but as soon as I've stopped going, just put it all back on more. Probably the most drastic one I did was just before I started Guaranteed Fitness. It was a meal replacement. I did it in the month before I joined, and lasted 2 weeks. And then I just wanted to chew something. It just got me really down, actually. I got quite ill. And then Sally told me about Guaranteed Fitness, and I thought I'd give it a go.
I'm not surprised, Ceri. When I go more than a handful of hours without eating, I get grouchy and what have you. And again, it's quite an interesting observation that actually some of the guys that eat the most healthy food are generally actually the leanest. Like Carl, one of our trainers over at Buxton, people are often astounded when they see the volume of food that he eats. You think by the normal definition of calories in versus calories out, he should be really obese, but he's actually really lean in great shape because he just eats natural healthy foods. What would you say your main worries were about trying this out, Ceri? Before you came down, what were your concerns?
Probably the big one was the diet, with me being vegetarian. Another one was the type of people that would be here, what the trainers would be like, because obviously I did feel quite uncomfortable in myself, and I didn't want to feel like that when I came. They were probably the biggest things, but people's perceptions of me as well.
Yeah, so when you started, Ceri, after a few weeks into it, how did you feel after that when you got started?
I love the sessions. I like it because it's 45 minutes. It doesn't take up a lot of time, and I can just come and I can go, and it helps me like to switch off in the evenings as well. I mean, everyone was great. There's no people pouncing around and looking stupid. And everyone's really friendly. The trainers have absolutely been fantastic. Just motivating it and changing things for you if you can't do a particular thing. And also, you can go at your own pace. You're not up against anybody else. Yeah. Although obviously, if one of my friends is there's always a bit of competitive between us.
That's a great point you made there, Ceri. And one thing that Matt and I have been conscious of when starting this podcast is we don't want it to become like a sales vehicle for Guaranteed Fitness. We want whoever's listening to this to be able to get some useful content out of it. So what I'd say to anyone at home there listening is, if you're wanting to do something that changes your life, find something that's a good fit for you. Find something where there's a community of like-minded people. We've been very conscious at Guaranteed Fitness of creating this certain community. So it's not for everyone. Some people, this isn't the right sort of option for them, and they wouldn't enjoy what we do. But people like Ceri and her friends come down, they found they're a really good fit for that. So whatever it is you're looking for, try and look and find something that's got that right sort of community, that right sort of atmosphere, and supports people like you on the journey that you're on. So Ceri, what other changes have you made in your life, would you say?
I'd say obviously I come down and train quite a lot. I do about 4 or 5 sessions a week, and I don't find it a chore. It's just something that I feel that I want to do, and I know I'm going to enjoy it when I come. And if I'm tired, I often find that once I've done a session, I feel so much better for doing it. A lot of the other changes will be food. Obviously, looking at the portions and the balance of my food. I've pretty much cut down on a lot of pasta, rice. I don't miss pasta. I have a little bit of rice occasionally. Potatoes, replace those with sweet potatoes. So that's, again, doesn't bother me not having them. I'll have them occasionally if I fancy it, but not every day like I was. And making food up in the evening and having it for my lunch the next day, even having it for my tea as well, just makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Cool. There's a couple of great points you made there, Ceri. The one big one is that really what we recommend at Guaranteed Fitness and what we recommend to anyone out there listening is to get the balance in your diet. Now, the term a balanced diet is one of the most misused terms there is, and Matt and I are almost on a bit of a mission to try and reclaim it. Because you see people, experts, talking about a balanced diet, and what they're recommending is just full of crap. It's really high in sugar, really high in processed starches. So what we recommend is getting about a third of your energy from protein, a third from fat, and a third from carbs. We spent millions of years evolving from monkeys to space travel on that sort of balance. And for the last 40 or so years, we've been recommended basically go really high carbohydrate. And look what's happened to the world in that time. So the point we always make, we're not about getting rid of carbs, but get that balance there. Get a good balance of proteins and fat and carbs. Another great point you made as well, Ceri, was about doing something you enjoy. There's a great expression that I really love about the best thing to do is the right thing. The next best thing to do is the wrong thing. The worst thing to do is nothing at all. Because you're actually better off doing something that's less effective than something else, but you're actually enjoying and keep doing. Yeah, I'd like to think what we do at Guaranteed Fitness is the most effective thing you can do and the most enjoyable, but you are better off if you prefer line dancing or cycling or anything all like that that's a bit of exercise, going to make you fit and healthy. If you enjoy doing that and you're going to keep doing it, go for that rather than something you've been told is better that you don't like doing. So, Ceri, what did you find particularly difficult about the changes that you made? What were the hardest things to change, would you say?
I'd say the hardest thing was the diet and just getting more protein into it, especially being vegetarian. I'd say that was the biggest thing that I've struggled with.
Actually, one thing you did mention before, Ceri, I'll go back to as well. You mentioned about batch cooking food. That's one thing we're really big at Guaranteed Fitness about. Not working harder, but working smarter. Most people, when they come to us and they're not in the best of shape, it's not because they haven't put the effort in before. It's maybe misapplication of effort. So we're about helping them put systems into their lives to make the whole thing as easy as possible. So batch cooking you mentioned there, for those that haven't heard of it, it's basically preparing a number of meals in one go. So just last night I was putting on our Facebook group a picture of all the chicken that I've separated out. I've got 10 kilos of chicken from the local butchers yesterday, separated them into little bags, and then cooked about 3 days worth of food from them. Tupperwared it up, popped some in the fridge, popped some in the freezer. So I will mix that out over the course of the next week along with some other food that I'm preparing. It just makes your food prep time a lot less. Matt, you do something with your eggs as well, don't you?
Yeah, on a Sunday night, I crack all my eggs into a Tupperware box, put them in the fridge, so it's done for the week. So in the morning I come down, I come out, walk out my bedroom because I live on the same level. Put some bacon on the grill and stick my eggs in a wok, and it's done. My breakfast is done in about 30 seconds of actual work. So yeah, cracking eggs on Sunday night, which does it for the full week, means I'm not cracking eggs at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting eggshells out. So I'm the worst egg cracker in the world. So yeah.
So it's all about working smarter, not harder. And I did notice on Facebook last night as well, Matt, you got a slow cooker, is that right?
Yes, I also put a slow cooker on last night, so that did beef stew for about 3 days worth of food, which again took, less than 10 minutes of prep to actually do for 3 days worth of food.
Ceri, what would you say has been different about the changes you've made this time versus things you've tried in the past?
I think it's been a lot easier to maintain. Because I enjoy the sessions, and I've got into the habit of coming. It's part of my life now, just to come to the sessions, and I just find it so much easier to stick to because I'm enjoying it.
That's awesome. Yes, what I just said about finding something you enjoy doing, and the biggest thing is making it part of your new life, just making it a habit. We've all got habits that we do already. Some of those are unhealthy habits. Some are just general everyday things like we don't think when we get up, should I go and brush my teeth? Should I go to work? Should I take the kids to school? Should I pick them up afterwards? They're just things that we accept that we're doing and habits that we've built into our life. So we're very much about helping people develop those new habits. And again, if you're someone who's never going to be working with us, you can try and do that yourself. Look at the thought processes you've got, look at the habits you've got. I'll stick a little thing in the show notes on the website as well about how the best way to develop new habits. Basically break down habits. All habits are a cue, followed by a routine, followed by a reward. And when you can identify the different parts of your habit and start to put new routines and new rewards in place, you basically replace the old habits with new ones. So you're not cutting stuff out of your life, because if you do, you'll leave a cake-shaped hole in your life, but you're putting new habits in to replace the old ones. So if you pop over to guaranteedfitness.co.uk, if you're not already on the system, pop your email address in there and you'll be able to see all the show notes from the website. Ceri, what advice would you give someone else who's wanting to change their life?
You just have to make that first step, really, and find something that you want to do and that you enjoy. If you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to stick to it. You have to just take it one step at a time. I started back in February, and it's now November, and I've just, really enjoyed it, and I've made it into a habit that's what I do. That's where I go, and it's probably the longest time I've ever stuck to a program like this.
There's an expression that I like. For those of you that read my emails know there's certain quotes I like to use at various points, and one of them is a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So again, if you're not on your journey, if you've not done anything yet to start to take you from where you are now to where you want to get to, taking that first step is always the hardest. As Ceri said there, actually coming in, doing the first session, meeting us for the first time, that's the biggest step. Once you're on the way, it becomes easier and easier to go along. So whatever it is you're thinking about trying out, whether it be now or in the new year, then get that first step planned, get something in position so you're going to be taking action. Cool, Ceri, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you coming down. Hopefully the people listening at home have found some useful content, some ideas there. Again, pop over to guaranteedfitness.co.uk for the show notes. But Ceri, thanks for your time coming down. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so that's it for the first ever Guaranteed Fitness podcast of awesomeness. Hopefully you found it useful. Just a quick recap there. So our question of the week was about making time. I gave you a few little ideas. Basically, keep track of what you're doing, then either stop doing things or batch them to free up some time. You'd be amazed out of the 168 hours if you can't free up at least 5 hours to do something that's good for your health in that time. The thing of the week was then the online course we've created for that. Just go to the show notes at guaranteedfitness.co.uk to download that. And then we had the interview with Ceri. Hopefully she gave you some useful insight there to the journey that she's been on, and you guys can take something out of that for the journey that you're either on or about to undertake. So that's basically it. One last thing to do. We've got the special outro. And again, Matt hasn't heard this, and this was actually one that makes me laugh the most. So guys, thanks for listening and see you next week.
Thank you for listening to John and Matt talk nonsense today. See you next time, dudes.
Nice.